are you that data enthusiast who's actually looking, and studying the difference between a role of a data engineer or a data analyst, right? You really want to understand what are the roles, what are the responsibilities, different skill sets that are required, because actually quite a bit of overlap happens in terms of skills for these positions. Well, if that is what you're looking for, this video is meant for you. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned for the video ahead. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Afreen Rahman from Inset, and welcome back to yet another video. Now, today we're going to be discussing the difference between a data engineer and a data analyst. And now, in this video, we're going to go over three main categories, the responsibilities, the qualifications, and the skills of both the data engineer and the data analyst. And then at the very end, I'm going to talk about which job may be right for you. So now let's jump right into with the responsibilities, and let's start off with the data engineer. Now, the first thing that the data engineer is going to be responsible for is developing and maintaining data pipelines. Now, if you don't know what a data pipeline or an ETL pipeline is, let me tell you, it is basically an automated process to get the data into your databases from a particular source. So the data engineers writes all the codes to develop that process, but they also need to maintain that process, right? So if kind of something breaks down the line, they are going to be the ones who need to go in and figure out what's wrong and then fix it to make sure that the data is coming in properly. Now, another thing the data engineers do is they ensure the data accuracy and quality, and this is not something that they need to do just for one time, right? This is something that they need to do as long as they're getting data from that source. So now, if you see, it will be near impossible for the data engineers to check every single data source manually, either daily or weekly or monthly. So typically they're going to set up some type of monitoring system that checks the data and sends them a flag. Anything that looks off, they get a flag. And one of the bigger, other big things that data engineers do is they design, they develop, and they maintain their database architecture. Now, when we were talking about the ETL, now as a part of their ETL process, they need to extract the data, they need to transform the data, and then load the data somewhere. So ETL, extract, transform, and load. And typically that's going to be a database, a data warehouse, or a data lake, right? So before that data is loaded, some type of database and table schema needs to be created in order to store that data properly. So now that data engineer is done, let's move to the data analyst. So now a data analyst is going to use static data to both describe the data also and to gain insights from it. So the data engineer, what they're going to do is they're going to create an automated process that pulls the data in, right? And it stores it, and then the data analyst is going to go pick up that data wherever it is stored, and they can use that particular data to process it further. Now, the next thing that a data analyst does is they ensure that data acquisition and maintenance of a particular data. So now I think this is one of the biggest thing that people miss in the data analyst job description. Oftentimes there are going to be data acquisition or as well as part of your job, right? But here you're not acting as a data engineer, you're not creating an automated process, but you will be working directly with the client to kind of better understand their data at the source, right? And then you'll also be mapping that data from the source into your target database on your end, right? And this process is called data mapping, and it needs to be done because typically your client is not going to format things, or they're not going to keep things in the same columns as you would in your particular database. So you are going to take a table from the source, and you're going to tell each column exactly where it's supposed to go in your database. And now the very last thing that a data analyst is going to do is they're going to create dashboards and reports. And this is no surprise, I think. That's why a lot of people think of, when they think data analyst, they think that they're going to create dashboards, that's going to include all your insights and KPIs that your company wants to see and track. And you're also going to be creating reports, whether those are internal or whether they need to go to your clients, and they will be giving them information, and also giving your team that information that you can use and act on. Right now, let's move to the qualification part of things, and let's start off with data engineer. Now, almost every single job that you will find for data engineering, you will definitely need a bachelor's degree. For some, you might even need a master's degree, right? And some of the degrees that are highly recommended are degrees in computer science, statistics, applied mathematics, and computer engineering, right? And whereas for a data analyst, it's somewhat similar, and a lot of jobs are going to require a bachelor's degree, like I said, but some of them are also going to require a master's degree. And typically in larger companies, some really good degrees for data analysts to get, that they would consider, for data analysts, would be computer science, mathematics, economics, and finance also, right? So I will tell you, when I was doing my research, for this particular video, I found out that a lot of data engineering jobs were requiring very technical degrees, right? And I think that's because this job is much more technical than a data analyst position, right? So they didn't care about, the recruiters didn't care as much about the domain knowledge as much as they did about the technical side of things. Whereas with the data analyst, a lot of jobs, they prefer the technical degrees, right? But there was another factor in data analysts. They were more than willing to accept some of the domain degrees, like finance degrees or an economics degree, right? As long as you have the right skill set, right? Now, talking about skill sets, let's look at the skill section, right? And let's start off with the data engineer. Now, some of the skills that you will need to know are SQL and NoSQL, right? And if you don't know what NoSQL is, it is kind of an SQL, except you can store unstructured and semi-structured data into it. A few other skills that you need to know would be like, skills like Hadoop, Java, and Python. And within Java, you'll need to know things like Pandas and Airflow, for example, right? You'll also need to know Apache, Kafka, and Apache Spark, as well as Hive in some of the cloud platforms like AWS or Azure, right? Now, coming to data analysts, you're going to know things like, again, SQL, R, and Python. And within Python, you might even know things like Pandas, NumPy, and Matplotlib. You'll also need to know some type of data, with tools like Tableau or Power BI, and you will need to know how to do data modeling, right? You may also need to know, SAS or SPSS, Excel, and then some type of cloud platform like, again, AWS or Azure, right? Now, when I look at these two different kind of skill sets, the first thing that jumps out to me is that data engineer is a lot more in technical. They're going to need to know several programming languages, quite in depth, in order to get their jobs done efficiently. Now, but with the data analyst, they may only need to know one language like R or Python, or they may not even need to know one at all if their company doesn't use one of those. So now, coming back to who do I think these jobs are for, I think the data engineer is going to fit really, really nicely with somebody who, has a technical background, as well as somebody who absolutely love databases or even building databases, right? But if you know a lot of kind of programming languages and you love building and designing databases, this job is a perfect job for you. But for the data analyst, I think that, this is going to be, for somebody who's very curious and likes to solve problems. They're going to enjoy digging into data to find trends and patterns, and then visualize those trends and patterns that they found. So the data analyst job is going to be a little bit, kind of a more entry level or a beginner friendly for people who are trying to get their foot in the door in the data world. So there you have it. That is the difference between a data engineer and a data analyst. I hope it was helpful for you. I hope that this gave some type of insight into what you might want to become in the future, or consider for your career. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, be sure to like and subscribe below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.